Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I invite you to take your seats, and welcome to those who are praying with us online tonight. And I wish you not only a Shabbat Shalom, but a Chag Sameach as well. That means a very happy Sukkot holiday. We are, of course, delighted to be celebrating the wonders of the outdoors as we celebrate our Fall Harvest Festival of Sukkot with old and young and everybody in between. And so we're delighted to have you here with us. We're going to actually begin. You have 2 supplemental pages tonight. So I want to bring everybody's attention. In the book, you've got a prayer book. You've got a supplemental page that has a number of Shabbat prayers, and then you have a goldenrod. Is that the right name of that piece of paper? Goldenrod? Yeah. A goldenrod page that includes some special prayers for this Sukkot holiday. And so I'll direct your attention to the Sukkot page, the goldenrod page, because there you will find at the bottom of the page the words for Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. You may notice in that little prayer the word Sukkot, which is definitely a grammatical sister to the word sukkah. We are, in a sense, in a sukkah, covered with a canopy overhead, but that is open on all sides. We are, when we pray Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, we are really praying to experience a sukkah of peace that we feel above us and around us and also within us. That experience of peace that we are attempting to cultivate not only in our spiritual lives, but in a world that desperately awaits the creation of peace. And so first we're going to begin by singing just the melody, so you can pick that up, and then you'll have the words handy for when we join in singing that together as well. It goes like this. Yai lai, yai lai, lai, lai. Yai lai, 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 lai. Yai lai, 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 lai. Yai lai, 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 lai. Try it with us. Yai lai, yai lai, lai, lai. Yai lai, 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 lai. Yai, yai lai, yai lai. Yai, yai lai, 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 lai.
On your supplemental page. Now the days grow shorter, and the warmth of summer gives way to the coolness of autumn. Soon the unfertile winter with its fallow ground will be with us. We are grateful for the bounty of the fall harvest, not only for its tastes and sights and smells, but also for its protection against winter's cold hunger. We celebrate the harvest's fruits for more than the pleasure they give. They recall the redemptive power in nature, the goodness of the earth, the divine presence that unifies our world and sustains our lives. These days of the Harvest Festival we celebrate in Sukkot, simple booths that remind us of our dependence on nature, on each other, and on the divine direction that speaks not only to us, but to every creature that inhabits our world. These fragile booths remind us of our need to care for our world in order to receive its bounty. In this turning of the year, we turn to each other, humbled by the glory of the fruits and rejoicing in their fullness. As we partake of fruits that are the product of hands besides our own, we sense the outstretched hands of those who need our help. May our rejoicing in these fruits lead us to extend our helping hands. Spread over us your shelter of peace.
Ufros aleinu sukkah shlomecha ufros aleinu Sukkah shlomecha.
It was good, right? It was beautiful. So tonight's Shabbat, it's also a very special holiday that we're in right now. We're in the holiday of Sukkot. And Sukkot is a special time of year. It's similar to Passover. We have 8 days, and Passover also has 8 days. And the first 2 nights of Sukkot, just like Passover, the first 2 nights of Sukkot are a special holiday where we're commanded to rest, we're commanded to eat and celebrate and sing songs in the sukkah. We're commanded to celebrate it as a festival and hold it as sacred, as holy, as special. And then we have these days in between. And then the final 2 days of Sukkot, we have 2 more holidays, 2 more festival days where we say special festival prayers, where we rest, where we dwell. And those days in between, the rabbis have a special name. Well, actually, the Torah has a special name for these days. They're called Chol HaMoed. They're called Chol HaMoed, which means the profane, the Chol, the profane, lies between the holy. So we're in between 2 holy parts of our Sukkot holiday. We came from holy, and we're headed toward holy. And so my question for us all is, what is the holiness from our past that we seek to hold? And what is the holiness that we wish to emit in the future? On this Shabbat Sukkot, this Shabbat where we are in between 2 holy moments, may we join together in song and in prayer and in moments of silence and in epic lulav shaking so that we may bring holiness into our own lives and into the lives of others. We'll join together on page 13 for Shir Chadash.
L'Adonai kol haaretz shiru l'Adonai Let's hear your voice. There are some people who are with us here tonight who have recently experienced weddings. Weddings are fun. We're supposed to experience the arrival of Shabbat with the same kind of anticipation that we anticipate the arrival of a wedding. Literally with the same kind of anticipation that we experience when we're just about to have the bride enter the room or the space, and our hearts are leaning into all of that promise and joy and hope for the future. That is what Shabbat is supposed to kindle for us, which is why we have Lecha Dodi on pages 20 and 21 as a metaphor given to us by the mystics, a metaphor for welcoming Sabbath like a bride. And so with that sort of hope for tomorrow in our hearts, let us build it on this Shabbat. Let's join together. Verses 1 and 2, the top two verses on page 20, and then the top and bottom verses on 21. So that's 1, 2, 5, and 9. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad yishmi'anu el hamiyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shemu tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Top of 21. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבור אדוני עלייך בגלל lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. I invite you, if you're able, to stand at this time and face the entrance to our outdoor chapel. The mystics taught that it was at this moment in Lecha Dodi that we should experience in our soul's eye the arrival of Shabbat the bride. So see her and welcome her. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. I invite you to face forward once again, but to remain standing for Baruch Hu, which can be found on page 28. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la la. Baruch Adonai Amorah Le'olam Va'ed Le'olam Va'ed Ya la 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 Ya la 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 Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
On page 31, praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and life, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Our Shema, our central creed, can be found in the middle of page 34. It's a prayer for listening, it's a prayer for togetherness, it's a prayer for groundedness. So before we begin the Shema, I invite us all to take one deep breath and let it go.
I am here, I am now, asking when, asking how, only I, only thou, only one.
Fill my heart, still my soul. I am part of this whole. I will sing out my soul to the one.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
There is a bit of a tension as we celebrate Sukkot, because on the one hand, this is known as Zman Simchatenu, which means this is the season of our joy. We are commanded to be joyful. Don't we all feel so joyful? Yes. Melinda, I feel your joy. And on the other hand, at the same time, we are also very aware of our vulnerability, of our fragility, because Sukkot has us living in impermanent structures. We're literally living in booths where we're meant to see outside and be vulnerable to the elements when it's cold, when it's raining. This is all part of the holiday as well. And so as we prepare to sing Michamocha, our people's prayer, and really call for liberation, I think Sukkot involves that as well, because it's our chance to think about the safety and the comfort that we may have, and how can we ensure that all people don't get to have that same kind of constant shelter and constant protection and constant peace from the elements, from this world. And so let's join together in our prayer of hope and our prayer of rejoicing and our prayer of freedom, Michamocha, which can be found on page 40.
מי כמוך נהדר בכל לפני משה ומרים, זה שלי. ענו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם לעולם ועד. יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי לי לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי לי לי, יאללה לי 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 לי.
We turn now to our supplemental pages and find Hashkivenu. This is our prayer asking God to make sure there is peace around this world and also that we find that sense of peace and respite within ourselves. Please join us in this nighttime prayer.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Amen. Amen.
So you sing it. Amen. 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 The Amidah begins on page 46. I invite you to stand if you're able.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Page 48.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon,
גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל
וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה
Page 50.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע
מוריד הטל מחכה חיים
וחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל
Page 52.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
The Amidah continues in silence. The remaining blessings of this section of the service can be found through page 62. It's also an opportunity to look away from the prayer book if you prefer to look deep within. Find the prayers that reside there as we spend this time in quiet prayer. I invite you to remain standing or to be seated whenever you're ready. Some of those of us who are here tonight in person in the sanctuary, the outdoor chapel, are participants in our mindful LBT community, our mindfulness community, our meditative practice community. In any congregation, there are those who are a part of that important soulful work, and then there are those who are the cynics about that soulful work. Like, oh God, they're not going to ask me to close my eyes and notice my breath, are they? It could get rough in here. Part of that cynicism is attached to a misconception that I wish to disabuse you of tonight, if you entered with it, that somehow the idea of mindfulness practice being introduced into Jewish custom is kind of a hippy-dippy invention that some of us who were fans of meditating just decided that, well, let's put that in Judaism and call it Judaism too. I have bad news for the cynics. The impulse to introduce mindfulness meditation into Jewish custom actually goes back to the Hasidic tradition, not to us nice contemporary folk. Reb Nachman, talking about 19th century now, was a big fan of what is known in contemporary mindfulness as walking meditation. There are those of us who sit and notice our breath. That's probably the most normative position for meditating. But the idea that you can walk and notice your feet pressing against the ground and all the other sensations of your body moving, and that can be itself an inspiration for looking deep within and without and becoming that much more aware of your aliveness. That goes back to Reb Nachman of Bratslav, not Reb whomever of contemporary Jewish tradition. And so, seizing upon that custom, Debbie Friedman, Aleha HaShalom, may her memory be a blessing, took Reb Nachman's practice and gave voice to it with the words that you can find on the backside of the Goldenrod supplemental page for this Sukkot. And it is perfect for this holiday of Sukkot, in which we are attempting to be mindful of all of God's gifts of creation. Because when we sit outside in the sukkah, we are awakened to whether it's hot or cold, whether it's damp or dry. We feel it all in a way that we don't when we're inside climate control. That's a part of what we experience in walking meditation as well. And so, this prayer of gratitude based upon Reb Nachman's teachings to awaken us to all that is alive, including our own souls, on this Shabbat of Sukkot.
You are the one, for this I pray, that I may have the strength to be alone, to see the world, to stand among the trees and all the living things, that I may stand alone and offer prayers and talk to you. You are the one to whom I do belong, and I'll sing my song, I'll sing my soul to you, and give you all that's in my heart.
May all the foliage of the field, all grasses, trees, and plants awaken at my coming, this I pray, and send their life into my words of prayer, so that my speech, my thoughts, and my prayers will be made whole, and through the spirit of all growing things. And we know that everything is one, because we know that everything is you. I pray, I ask you, God, to hear my words, pour out from I like water lift my hands to you in prayer. And grant me strength, and grant me strength to stand alone. You are the one to whom I do belong. And I'll sing my soul, I'll sing my soul to you. And give you all that's in my heart. You are the one, for this I pray, and I'll sing my soul to So most of you know what these funny-looking things in front of me here are, what they are and what they're for, but just in case. In my left hand is the, in my right hand is the, very good, the lulav and the etrog. They are known as the arba'a minim, the 4 species that we lift up together during this holiday of Sukkot. Now, I want you to think about this for just a moment, because there are so many little fabulous midrashim, rabbinic little teachings about what the lulav and etrog are supposed to symbolize in our lives. One of my favorites that I've always loved. First, I'm going to point out what these species are, and then I'll tell you about my rabbinic midrash. First off, we have, of course, this branch right here. We Californians should recognize this middle branch. What is it? It's from a what tree? From a palm tree, right? So the palm branch is always in the center of your lulav. We have some, now we're going to have to see who are the, arborists among us, the treologists here at the congregation tonight. Who can tell me these are branches of what kind of tree? Very nice. Myrtle branches. They smell great, incidentally. When after the service is over, you want to come up and, because we're going to make the blessing for shaking the lulav and etrog, it's a great chance for you to just come up because you'll have made the blessing already. You may as well shake the lulav and etrog. And when you do so, you get a little smell of the myrtle branch, the myrtle leaves. It's quite beautiful. So over here we have another kind of tree. Anybody recognize it? I heard. You're a plant. It's all good. Ringer. All right, very good. It's okay. Yes, this is a willow, branch of a willow tree. In the Torah, we actually have these 4 species described, sort of described. It actually does say that we're supposed to have the palm branch. That's actually specifically told to us. And then it says that we're supposed to have boughs of leafy trees. We don't really know exactly. It doesn't say which leafy tree we're supposed to use, but I don't know about you. This looks pretty leafy to me, pretty intensely, thickly leafy. And so that's where the myrtle branch came into the equation. It does say the willows of the brook are what we're supposed to include in our 4 species. And so that's where the willow branch comes from. And then last but not least, we have this unusual fella right here. I don't know. It's not a fella, right, Rabbi Bernie? It could be of any gender it wants to be. Absolutely. So this piece of fruit is known as an etrog in Hebrew. It is known in English usually as a citron. It is lemon-like, but it is not exactly a lemon. What makes it different than a lemon? Anybody want to tell me? There are a few things. Wide open for any suggestions. What makes it different? Well, I'll tell you one thing that makes it different. It's kind of bumpy instead of smooth. It's a little bit of a different texture, if you can see that from a distance, but it is not exactly as smooth as a lemon, even though it's pretty much as yellow as a lemon, although not universally so. When they're growing, they're actually green. And then only when they become perfectly ripe and suitable for ritual use do they become yellow. It's actually a very hard thing to grow for a period of time. My wife and I had an etrog tree. A congregant, actually, God bless, had a who's the kind of person who sends over a truck with an etrog tree? But lo and behold, we planted an etrog tree in our backyard. And because we are both so incredibly gifted with growing things, that was the one thing that we probably should have told them in advance before they did this. The etrog tree was not all that long for this world. However, during its all too short life, it grew beautiful etrogim, but that we could never manage to time them to get them to be perfect and yellow like this. And that's the reason why it's actually quite a valuable piece of fruit. They're not inexpensive to get yourself a ritually suitable etrog for this season of the year, because they has to peak at the exact right time and be yellow. So that's a part of it. Another part of it is this little tip you see on the end of it. Yes, this is the stem here that it grows from the tree on. I'm holding the stem now. So this extra little tip is in fact not the stem. It is known as a pitom or pitma, and it is something that sets apart this piece of fruit from any other piece of fruit. And in fact, again, in order to be ritually perfect, suitable for use, it has to be ripe at the right time, and it has to include this little tip. Which means when we bring out the etrog on religious school Sundays and we start passing them along for the kids to shake the lulav and etrog together, we always want to make certain that there are no fumbles. It's football season. You're not supposed to fumble the etrog, because if you do, the tip could break off, and then it's great for an Arnold Palmer. You slice up the etrog, and but that's about all it's good for at that point, ritually speaking. Although I will say this, it's not really quite so. It's not lemon tasting. It's kind of a weird mix of like sweet and bitter, and it doesn't quite taste like a lemon.
It's really bitter.
Yeah.
Really bitter, and you have to the only way you can really eat it is in people will make marmalade or jam.
Yes, that's right.
Or liqueur.
Yep, liqueurs and jams. People will sometimes use their etrog for, and at the end of the season, it's again, you've got a perfect one, so it's worth giving a try. Now here's the thing: there are all these teachings, as I said before, about what the etrogim and the lulavim are supposed to symbolize for us. 4 species, right? One of my favorites is they taught that there are, of course, 4 Hebrew letters in the name of God. The unpronounceable name of God. And this teaching is really aimed straight at the God cynics among us tonight. If you are among those who are like, yeah, I know it's services, so God's going to come up. I would kind of prefer it if God didn't come up, because I have my ambivalences. I'm not altogether certain what I believe about God, or even if I believe about God. This teaching from the ancient rabbis, not my teaching, is very much for you. They thought that, there are 4 letters. What are those letters in the spelling of God's name? Very nice, Lois. Not a plant. Nicely done. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. And if you're, I don't know that I'll be able to quickly and easily find it in the book. Doesn't matter. Yud is a small little letter. Yud, Hey. Hey looks kind of like this. It kind of looks almost like a hut. It's got a top and a right side, and then a line over to the left side. A little bit like a sukkah even, I would say. So that's what a Hey looks like. And a Vav, one big straight line, as you were just showing us. So Yud, little small nugget up at the top. Hey, looking a little bit like a sukkah. Vav, straight line, and then another Hey. Those are the letters that spell God's name, which is never to be pronounced. We just look at them, and we know what they symbolize. God is unpronounceable. So the ancient rabbis taught that this piece of fruit, pretty small as it is, makes a pretty good yud. In fact, I should probably reverse hands now for all of you. Makes a pretty good yud. Now, this guy in the center makes an amazing vav. Right? We talked about vav being a straight line. So yud, that's working. Vav, that's working. And look, they're actually in perfect order. Yud, Hey, Vav, hay. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, you told me, Rabbi, that the hay looks a little bit like a sukkah, not like a branch of a leafy tree. That is true. They were very creative, the ancient rabbis. And so, yeah, do these branches look so much like a hay? Not so much like a hay. However, they are wider and they take up a different space. And so it's not all that hard to use our vivid imaginations to imagine the yud up here higher, the wider, more expansive branch being the symbol of the hay, the vav right here in the middle, and then the hay. So the lulav and etrog together, the four species, are, for them, a symbol of God's presence. Now, a lot of you know that when we use the lulav and etrog as a ritual symbol on Sukkot, we hold them close together, we recite a blessing for taking up, it's not even for shaking the lulav and etrog, although that is what we do with them. The blessing literally means we thank you, God, for the commandment to take up the lulav and etrog in our hands, such as I've got them right now. But we're supposed to hold them all close together. Why? Because as a cluster, we are fulfilling the commandment to bring up these four species that are named in the Torah. Well, the ancient rabbis, likening these four species to God, suggested that when we hold these symbols together, we are in fact acknowledging, and of course, what do we do with them? We shake them in every direction where things grow, right? So in a moment, after we make the blessing, I'm going to face toward the east. I'm going to shake the lulav toward the east. I'm going to then go on to shake it toward the south, toward the west, toward the north. You can be thinking about the different kinds of things that grow in those different environments because, in fact, we need those different climates and environments to grow all the things that fill this earth. Lastly, to shake up toward the sky from which the sunshine and from which the rain comes in order to help things grow. And finally, down to the ground where everything is ultimately planted, including us. You know, the Hebrew word for human beings is Adam. People often translate it as Adam, the first person, but in point of fact, Adam comes from Adamah, earth. So in fact, the word for us in the Torah as humans is earthling. We are ourselves also attached to the earth. That is to say, we can only fly when we go to Delta Airlines and they take off and then we're flying. But in point of fact, our natural existence is also bound to the ground. And so we are shaking, when we shake toward the ground, we're acknowledging also our implanting upon the earth. So the symbol of shaking lulav and etrog is designed to get us acknowledging all that is. When we think of the symbol that we're using for doing that as God, we break away from that old-fashioned notion of God that I think is so troubling for so many folks, that so many of us grow up ultimately attempting to push away as quick as we become rebels against it. That notion of an anthropomorphic, corporeal God sitting on a throne up in some sky, usually a male, usually an old male with a white beard sitting on some throne somewhere. And have you ever, when you were a kid, that was the first God that you pictured? Certainly was the first God I pictured until I worked to disabuse myself, first by just rejecting God entirely, and then by studying all kinds of beautiful teachings from the modern Jewish philosophers to help us to understand a God that is encompassing of all that is. And so, when we were singing a few moments ago, and we know that everything is one, which incidentally is what Shema is about. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai is our God. Adonai Echad. Adonai is one. The great oneness is in fact God. And Adonai is just the way we pronounce. It's not real pronunciation of Yud He Vav He. It's what stands in for saying Yud He Vav He, trying to pronounce it. So God is Echad, one. Whenever we experience the grand unity that really does connect all that is, we live in a time where we're constantly being reminded of how we're not one, constantly. But in point of fact, in a much, much larger, deeper, richer, more spiritual way, in point of fact, as Debbie wrote, based on Reb Nachman, we know that everything is one because we know that everything is you, capital Y, you, in her lyrics. And so, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, pointing in every direction. Let us take notice of a God that we don't have to rebel against, a God of which we are a part, a God that unites all that is into the Great One. The blessing for shaking the lulav and etrog is as follows. I'm just going to ask you to repeat after me, and when you do so, you will have recited the blessing for shaking the lulav and etrog, which means when our service ends, you'll come over with us into the sukkah. You can make another blessing in the sukkah, because that's also a fulfillment of a commandment, even to go into the sukkah. So you're knocking off the commandments right and left tonight. It's good news. When you get over there, you'll have your opportunity to do as I will be doing, shaking the lulav and etrog. Please repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu, b'mitzvotav, vitzivanu, al nitilat lulav. So we just said, we praise you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has given us mitzvot, commandments, to bring sanctity into our lives, and among them, this particular commandment concerning the lifting up and the shaking of the lulav and etrog. We hold them together as part of the Great One. We face toward the east. Why? Because so much of our tradition is about facing. Why do you think we set our ark over toward the east? So that our hearts are directed toward Jerusalem. So I've now turned toward the east. We're going to begin our shaking in that direction. I hold them together with my two hands as one cluster, shaking toward the east and bringing them back into my heart. Shaking over to the south, over my shoulder to the west, off this away to the north. Thank you, Canada, for your maple syrup. Up to the sky, and down to the ground. And the last thing I always like to do when I shake the lulav and etrog together is get a smell. Now, you get a little deeper into Sukkot as we are right now, and sometimes you need to activate the etrog. It's not going to do it all by itself. The best way to do that is give it a little scratch. It's like a scratch and sniff kind of thing. Give it a scratch, and it smells really, really lovely. Probably better than it tastes, but it smells really, really beautiful. And so I will encourage all of you upon the conclusion of our service, as we're going to head over into the sukkah. We'll make a blessing for being together in the sukkah, and you'll have the opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah that you just recited a blessing for fulfilling.
Rabbi Jason talked about this idea of being bound to the earth, and also we learn on Sukkot that when so much is impermanent and is fragile, one thing that is significant is that we are bound to each other. And so part of how we express that during our service is our Misha Berach prayer. This is our prayer where we recognize people in our community who are struggling, who are suffering maybe with illness of the body or of the mind or of the spirit. And it's our chance to say their names out loud, to pray for their healing, and also as a call to remind us that we need to show up for them and that they deserve and really need our care. And so at this time, if there's someone that you are thinking of in your heart, in your inner circle, whom you'd like to offer our prayer for healing, I invite you at this time to stand, and as my eyes meet yours, to say their name out loud. We'll join together in our prayer for healing, Misha Berach, in the middle of page 253.
To make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberat imotenu Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Aleinu can be found on page 282. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד.
Some words to help us prepare for the recitation of Kaddish, found on page 291. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us, alone, must now become. And yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life, now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone and every life finds purpose. As we prepare to recite the Kaddish prayer this evening, we remember especially Marvin Harold Beers, father of our congregant Karen Beers, father-in-law of Dan Radlauer, Randa Sale, sister of our congregant Scott Sale, sister-in-law of Lori Sale, and Jerry Weissman, husband of our congregant Judith Farber Weissman, whom death has taken from us in recent days. We link their names with Herbert Bud Abrams, Arthur Breakstone, Harriet Faye Cohen, Brenna Fox, Clara Gombe, Gloria Heckler, Ruth Hirsch, Sheila Hutman, William Clifford Kahan, Dorothy Katz, Sheldon Lieberman, Stephen N. Lowe Jr., Alan Mendel, Israel Jacob Michaelov, Norma S. Reif, Michael Rich, Irving Richmond, Riva Schlesinger, Gilbert Schneider, Cecil Schultz, Marguerite Virginia Steinert. Are there other names we should include? If so, please speak them aloud. Taking them all into our hearts along with those who we name in our hearts and along with those who have perished as innocent victims of violence in a world that we must shepherd toward peace. We say Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the memory of the righteous is an everlasting blessing, as together we give thanks for the blessing of life with the words of Mourner's Kaddish found on page 294. If you're able, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ulalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. May the giver of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, and let us together say, amen. Now stay right where you are, because our service is concluded, but we have a closing song to sing, and it's a special one for this Shabbat of Sukkot. In fact, check this out. The cantor is learning this song for the first time. She's new to our community this year, hasn't ever sung in my sukkah before. It is a holiday classic, and we are going to take her into our arms and our heart and extend this classic work. And it is a classic artistic work, an earworm if ever there was one, to Cantor Hass on this Shabbat. The way this works, very simple. The words are there on the supplement if you want to have them in front of you, but it's actually real easy. All you got to do is repeat. It's all, we sing a line, you sing a line back. Actually, I sing a line, and she learns it and sings it back. So she then sings it, and you sing along with her, because she's the answering part of the duo, right?
I got it.
Very good. And rabbis, you want to come on up here and grab the lulav and etrog and, be part of the, the big finish here, the shaking of, yeah, exactly. And you guys can come on up if you want. There's no reason why we can't, enjoy the lulav and etrog, all of us here together. The chorus goes like this. I got to make sure I'm in the right key here. That'll work. All right, the chorus goes like this. You see the chorus there in the middle. That's the only part that's not call and response. Chorus goes like this. Shake, shake, shake the lulav. Smell the etrog so sweet. Come and have a looka in my sukkah and help yourself to something to eat. In my sukkah, oh, you know it. In my sukkah, in my sukkah. Cantor Hash, you haven't lived yet. You're about to have lived.
Here we go.
Here we go. I built a little sukkah.
I built a little sukkah
Out in the back.
out in the back.
It looks like a house.
It looks like a house
And a little like a shack.
and a little like a shack.
Well, it's not too big.
It's not too big
And it's not too high.
and it's not too high.
When you sit inside,
When you sit inside,
you can see the sky.
you can see the sky.
Shake, shake, shake your lulav. Smell the etrog so sweet. And come and have a looka in my sukkah and help yourself to something to eat. In my sukkah. Let's hear you, people. Sukkah. In my sukkah. Repeats. I built the roof
I built the roof
of sticks and twigs.
of sticks and twigs.
I strung up apples
I strung up apples
and nuts and figs
and nuts and figs
and some bananas,
and some bananas.
and that's not all.
And that's not all.
There were fruits and veggies all over the wall.
All over the wall.
Shake, shake, shake the lulav. You smell the etrog so sweet. And Come and have a look in my sukkah and help yourself to something to eat. In my sukkah, we got dancing. In my sukkah, in my sukkah. Let's give a little bit of love to the Leobeck Temple Dance Ensemble. Last big verse. Are you ready? I know the drama is killing you, right? The suspense. I built my sukkah.
I built my sukkah
With cloth and wood.
with cloth and wood.
It looked so pretty.
It looked so pretty
And it smelled so good.
and it smelled so good.
With leaves and branches
With leaves and branches
all around.
all around.
Papa lights the candles
Papa lights the candle
when sun goes down.
when the sun goes down.
Shake, shake, shake your lulav. Smell the etrog so sweet. Come and have a look in my sukkah and help yourself to something to eat. In my sukkah. Sing it, Leobeck Temple.
My sukkah.
In my sukkah. One of the great Jewish compositions of old. There you have it. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. For those of you who are here with us in person, come step in, come and have a look in our sukkah and help yourself to something to eat. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.